He already posted his farewell in Irish on X. Remember what I said at the start? A man writing his goodbye in his first language, that is not a social media play. It's a man at peace. And that's what I think is actually going to happen, in all honesty. Walking away at 48 with your health on your own terms after 17 years on the main roster, a lot of wrestlers don't honestly get that option. And there's zero shame in taking it also. He is married after all. He can move on with his life. He can still do this channel, do these videos. Now he could be potentially open to work out with wrestlers outside of WWE. More options are out there for him now. Anyway, when it comes to this, as always, this is where I land. The pay cut story, honestly, it's not really about money. It's about respect. WWE offered Sheamus a pay cut. He'd been there for 17 years. 4 world titles, a Royal Rumble, Money in the Bank, King of the Ring. But still, they offer him less money. So he left. Not surprised. Similar to the New Day and others. And now for the first time in 2 decades, Stephen Farley is a free agent. The question is, honestly, the question isn't if he lands somewhere. It's actually where he's going to land. And the answer to that question is going to tell you everything about where pro wrestling is heading right now. Welcome to the Tea Drop, where the brew is strong and there's lots to talk about. July 5th, 2026. Fightful Selects and other news medias breaks the story. WWE had approached Sheamus about an extension, a new deal. One condition though, less money. Per Sean Ross Sapp, Sheamus swiftly rejected it. Not molded over, not asked for more time, swiftly. Within 48 hours, he scrubbed every WWE reference from his socials, changed his handle, his X handle, from WWE_Sheamus to S Borelli Pro. And WWE moved him quietly, very quietly, to the alumni section on their website. Then on July 10th, Sheamus does the goodbye post on X. 6 words. Half of them in Irish. He does banga. He says banga after banger after banger after banger. You know the whole deal. And then he ends it in Irish. And I apologize if I don't say this accurately. I don't speak Gaelic Irish. And I apologize to all those that do. But I'm going to do my best. He says Slan mo WWE charde. Which in translation, for those that don't know Gaelic Irish like myself, that means goodbye, my WWE friends. He even threw a burger in the middle of this thing. You can see it right here. And the last line, banger after banger, burger after banger. He's trying to be a jokester about it in a a little serious time, but sometimes you need to smile during these moments and just remember the good times. But because, of course, he would do that also. It's peak Sheamus, after all. Heartfelt farewell, punchline included. But here's what the post is actually telling you. And it's not what most people caught. And like I said, he wrote it in Irish, not English, Irish. It's not you can't say that's not a social media move. That's a man speaking to himself as well. That's a man who's made peace with something that's happened. We'll come back to that. Here's something the package never really told you. Stephen Farley, aka Sheamus, grew up in Cabra, Dublin, sang in a choir as a kid, played Gaelic football. I mean football, not American football, soccer. He studied it. And then somehow throughout his career, when he was doing this, decided to become a professional wrestler. You know who told him to do that? Well, according to him, it's Bret Hart, the Hitman himself. Think about that for a second. He trained at the Monster Factory in New Jersey. He debuted in 2002, worked the British independent circuit for years, signed with WWE Developmental in 2007. And here's the thing that most people tend to skip over. The character he built, he designed it himself. The Celtic Warrior, the pendant, the Celtic knotwork, the cross symbol, or Crosso symbol. That wasn't a costume department decision done by WWE. This was a man doing the homework on his own mythology of his culture. He wasn't playing an Irish stereotype. He was playing a warrior. And in 2009, the wrestling world found out exactly what that meant. He debuted. Now let's talk about the moment that changed everything for him. December 2009, Sheamus has been on the WWE roster for a few months now. They put him in a match with John Cena. Tables match. WWE Championship on the line. He won. Man, the crowd didn't know how to react at that time. Half of them had barely seen this guy before. And now he's standing there, pale, aggressive, completely unbothered, holding the WWE Championship. He won it from John Cena, the biggest star in the company. That man put him over in his debut year on a pay-per-view. I recall this match, and I wanted a change, and I was rooting for Sheamus to win. Didn't know much about him either, but the few things he did during the regular Raw, SmackDown, whatever show he was in, and just his work as a young person, I was being hopeful. Maybe they will actually drop the belt to someone this young. We haven't seen it since, I feel like, Kurt Angle era, like early Kurt Angle when he debuted, or even Chris Jericho. I don't know. But I was really hoping for that win, and it happened. I'm like, oh, shoot. And I'm like, at that point, I'm like, wow, John Cena, good guy, putting this guy over. It doesn't happen by accident. It was they trusted the guy. And then in 2010, King of the Ring starting to build, and that helped him a bit. Then he became King of the Ring, and I actually liked him as King of the Ring. I know at this time King of the Ring didn't do much, but he made it his own. He added his own uniqueness to the crown and made something out of it. He tried his best. Did it work? Not 100%, but you work with what you get and make the best out of it. But then in 2012, Royal Rumble, he lasts the entire match. He was the last man standing, eliminates Chris Jericho to win. He's going to WrestleMania as a top guy, and then WrestleMania 28 happens, Miami, the biggest stage in professional wrestling. He walks to the ring as the challenger against Daniel Bryan. The bell rings. 18 seconds later, man, which was wild, he's World Heavyweight Champion. 18 seconds. So now he's won the WWE title and now the World Heavyweight title. He's now have both. That was the fastest WrestleMania championship match in history. The crowd barely processed it. The internet lost its mind for how quick the match was. But then he became a 4-time world champion at this point, with all the belts combined. By the time most guys are hitting their stride, Sheamus had already done it all. But here's where the story got complicated, because the second half of his career, way more important than the first half. We get to, and I'll skip over this one, Money in the Bank ladder match. He wins the briefcase, and this is actually a historic moment that gets glossed over. He's only the second wrestler in history, after Edge, who's a Hall of Famer at this point, one of the greatest out there. He is matching Edge in the terms of holding a Royal Rumble win, King of the Ring, and Money in the Bank. 3 of the 4 most prestigious non-title prizes in WWE history. One guy, he cashes in, WWE champion again. Then comes the League of Nations. Sheamus, Rusev, King Barrett, Alberto Del Rio. International heels united against America. Simple concept, and it worked for the most part. Sheamus leading a villainous faction, leaning into the outsider heat, which we've seen before with the Hart Foundation in the 90s when they went against DX and everyone else against Canada. Similar concept, but this time with multiple nations. That's exactly the role his physicality was built for. But the era that actually defined his legacy, it hadn't even started yet. It started actually with Cesaro, The Bar, these guys. This was a great moment for Sheamus. Sheamus gets paired with Cesaro, but they call themselves The Bar. But even before The Bar, they had a disagreement that led to like a best out of 7 series, which amazing series of matches between these two, some of the best. But after all that dust was settled, they eventually became a tag team. They said, you know what, we should be able to work together, and they created The Bar because they said everyone needs to step up to their level, kind of deal, which was a great concept. And I want to be direct about this because this era is criminally, I feel, underrated. Cesaro is arguably the best pure wrestler on the damn planet, especially at that time. One of the most technically gifted humans to ever lace boots. And when you put someone that good next to you, sometimes that would either show stuff that exposes you, or if it's done well, it would elevate you. For Sheamus, it was elevated. Their matches with the New Day, with the Shield, with the Hardy Boys, consistently excellent. 5 tag title reigns across Raw and SmackDown. The bar proves something that matters for everything that came after. Sheamus wasn't just a singles main eventer who got parked in a tag team match at all. He was a complete wrestler, in all honesty. He was adaptable physically in every way. He was a reliable wrestler for any type of match that you needed him. He was there almost every single night. But his best character work, that came even later. And it almost got buried because nobody expected the Brawling Brutes to be that good. Do I have a picture of that? No. So we should be able to pull the Brawling Brutes. There we go. We'll pull this up. There we go. How do I, no, we'll open it. There we go. Late 2021, right? Around 2021, Sheamus is paired with Ridge Holland and then Butch. At least that's what they call him. They call him Butch. We all know him as Pete Dunne. 3 guys, 1 concept. They love to fight. That's it. That's the whole pitch. Honestly, it worked in my end in a way that nobody predicted. And here's why. Sheamus isn't pretending to be a tough guy. Ridge Holland hits hard, like legitimately hard. A lot of people have said it. And Butch, Pete Dunne, hits harder than his size has any rights to suggest. And we've seen plenty of that in NXT UK era. Now, when these 3 walked together, it felt real. It felt like a bar fight was about to happen in a stadium or in an arena. They've had their feud with Imperium, specifically Gunther's version on SmackDown, produced some of the most physically compelling TV WWE had put out in years. It was entertaining. They were brutally physically good. They were a legit, honest threat, I feel, for tag team division. And here's the detail that matters most. For the most part, I feel the crowd loved Sheamus during this run. Not a way that it was polite or respectful. They legit loved him. The guy they booed as a generic foreign heel back in 2009, 15 years later, the fans were begging to see him win. And that's a full career arc. That is someone who did the work. He got some titles out of this. He got more tag titles. And unfortunately, that's where it gets a little choppy. Because then in August 2023, not 31, he had a shoulder injury. 3 months later, Ridge turns on Butch. The Brawling Brutes are effectively done. And Sheamus, already in the final chapter of his career, never fully got back to what he was before that shoulder gave out. His last match aired on November 17th, 2025. He had shoulder surgery in December. And while he was lying in recovery, doing everything right, rehabbing, preparing to return, WWE gave him a call. They called him and they offered him less money. Now, I do want to be careful here because this isn't, now when we get to this, isn't just about a wrestling story of someone's career. It becomes a little business-like. And you need to understand one thing about TKO. The company that now owns WWE, we have to understand why this happened. Because TKO does not run talent contracts. At least not the way Vince McMahon did. This isn't like the "you're loyal to us, we're loyal to you" kind of deal that probably happened for the most part during Vince McMahon's era or pre-TKO era. TKO runs WWE talent like an NFL franchise runs its roster. Probably the simplest way I can say it. Every year, in the weeks after WrestleMania, more than 24 wrestlers are cut. Budget restructuring ordered directly by TKO executives. Now, I know Vince McMahon did the same, but he was more careful about it, and he was trying his best to keep as many as he could, and he never dropped people the amount that TKO does it. So there's a little difference. He was very careful about it, I feel. The question they ask is simple. What value does this person provide right now versus what they cost? Now, to think about it, where's this? Sheamus, at this point in his career, is 48. He's coming off shoulder surgery. He's pretty much in his final act of his career. He didn't clear that bar at his previous salary, I guess. And here's the part that should make every wrestling fan maybe a little uncomfortable. He's not alone when it came to this situation. We talked about it before. We had Kofi Kingston, Austin Creed, the New Day. Arguably the most beloved faction in WWE history also approached about a restructured deal, who also ended up leaving. 3 men at this point, every single one of them spent the better part of their entire career with WWE. The kind of guys you assume would retire there, similar to John Cena. They ended up walking out of WrestleMania. At WrestleMania. They ended up walking at the Hall of Fame ceremony this year. The whole thing. But then, all gone within months of each other. At this point, it's not a coincidence. It's now become a TKO policy. And that policy, combined with Sheamus having no non-complete clause because his contract expired naturally, means that right now, in July 2026, Stephen Farrelly can sign anywhere. So the question is now, where does he go? There are 4 realistic answers to this question, and we're going to go through all of them, and I'm going to tell you exactly which one I think actually happens and why. Starting with the most obvious one, obviously, and that is probably also the most complicated based on a few articles that I've read. First option is Sheamus, AEW. The second news broke that Sheamus got let go. AEW, for most fans out there, was the first word out of everyone's mouth. It's the typical norm. The wrestler leaves, he's going to go AEW next, or he'll go in TNA. But most of the talk has always been about AEW since its incarnation into our society. And look, this case is going to write itself. Hard-hitting style, check. Sheamus is one of the stiffest workers alive. Dream matches available, check. We can have MJF, Samoa Joe, Jon Moxley, Will Ospreay, a magnificent potential match, and of course Kenny Omega, depending on what happens after All In. Every single one of those is a legitimate program that could be of interest to many fans. Crowd proved that they'll cheer for him without WWE machinery. Check. The Brawling Brutes pops answers the question about that. MJF went on social media and directly called him out. Pretty much says, bring that smoke, O'Shaughnessy. MJ had revisited past Twitter interaction he had with Sheamus. Bring that smoke, O'Shaughnessy. So this was back in, I guess, for a while. The guy that alluded to stop now, I'm going to devour you. You can rock 6-inch lips and play top guy, but you've been handed the ball multiple times and fell. I'm glad you're having a resurgence and finally figure out how to get over. It only took you a decade. Took me one day. Sad. He resurfaced a tweet and says, just bring it on. It's not a joke tweet. That's a potential public negotiation. But, and this is the part most videos aren't covering. There's an internal divide in AEW about signing him. Dave Meltzer and Wrestling Observer flagged it. Brian Alvarez went further about it. He said, here we go. Alvarez, and I quote, said, I did talk to a lot of people in AEW who were like, are we really going to take this guy? Nobody dislikes Sheamus as a person, I feel, for the most part. That's not what this is when it comes to that comment. And the concern, I feel, is obviously roster space. AEW already has more talent than TV time at this point. Adding a 48-year-old coming off shoulder injury, even a genuine great 48-year-old, means someone younger loses their spot. They're back at catering, basically. For me, this could be a counter that they can do if they want him there. They can say Sheamus doesn't need a long-term deal, maybe 6 months to a year contract, 4 or 5 marquee matches done. Not really a roster problem at that point, and he's just a guest star. But maybe he can also just be a trainer, or like be a quote-unquote TV trainer, be out there helping young talent out. Like, imagine the young talent he can help. He can help the War Dogs be their Don Callis kind of persona. I don't see why not. But maybe limit him doing matches and just be there for younger talent. That can also be helpful. But anyway, my verdict for the most part will be, it could be possible that he's there. Genuinely possible. But it hinges entirely on whether Tony Khan structures this as a short run or tries to slot him into a long-term roster. If they do a short, it makes sense. If it's long, those internal concerns are going to be legitimate, unless they do what I'm suggesting, which is use him as a trainer. Use him like a voice, an advocate, a trainer, a Don Callis, an Irish Don Callis. That would be cool, in my opinion. Now, the other potential option would be New Japan Pro Wrestling. We'll just put him here. Sheamus can go to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now, hear me out when it comes to that. Because on the surface, New Japan Pro Wrestling does feel like a stretch. 40-year-old Irish man, post-shoulder surgery, flying to Japan, but strip back the geography and the stylistic fit is almost perfect. New Japan Pro Wrestling rewards toughness, physical, structured, hard-hitting wrestling. That's all New. That's the biggest thing about New Japan Pro Wrestling. That is almost every match Sheamus has ever had in his career. He doesn't need to change anything. He just needs to show up at this point. And the matchups, basically from what I know, who might be still in the roster, and I apologize if I'm off, you can have Sheamus against the United Empire faction. Evil is gone, so no. The Great Okan, who's in the G1 Climax. Zack Sabre Jr., of course, he can go against. These are some few fantasy bookings. They're not really fantasy bookings. I take that back. They're more like stylistic fits of toughness in Japan with a toughness of a Western star that New Japan home talent would generally benefit from working with. Now, New Japan Pro Wrestling has done this exact play before, bringing in credentialed Western veterans for elevated limited programs. So it's been a proven model in New Japan. My honest concern, though, is the G1 Climax, New Japan's premier summer tournament, is a brutal schedule. And honestly, that was if this was done sooner. G1 Climax already started, so he's not going to be involved in that, at least this year. But say he does next year, it is a brutal schedule. Multiple matches over multiple weeks. The physical demand at 48 post-surgery, that's a tough conversation to have. But a limited engagement, a marquee program, 4, 5, 6 matches, and then done. It's viable. It's possible that and to do New Japan, it's actually compelling, to be honest. So for me, it's the most interesting option on the table. Probably not a full contract in New Japan, but a limited run if he chooses to do that. A little different context, a different audience seeing what he can actually do. I watch every second of that because I love watching Sheamus wrestle. Sheamus left due to contract negotiations. He let his contract lapse because in the new contract, TKO wanted to do similar deal like they did to New Day, and Sheamus didn't want to do it, so he just let his contract lapse. He is now on the alumni list in WWE.com. He said his farewells on X, which you can catch right here. He changed his name from WWE Sheamus to S. Farelli Pro. So it's at the end of the day contract discussion that he didn't like the deal he was getting. So he's gone. Now let's talk about option number 3. Hope you're doing well, by the way, Sharon Moscots. Thank you for showing up. Let's talk about the other option out there, which is TNA. And I know guys, but give it a few seconds. TNA has quietly become a little bit more credible in 2025 and 2026. There have been a few hit or misses this year, but still better than the prior years. They're actively pursuing talent with some mainstream recognition to help them along the way to get even bigger. The schedule is lighter than AEW or New Japan if he were to sign up at TNA, and even the physical demand is probably going to be lower. Now, if Sheamus' body is telling him to ease off, TNA is probably the landing that keeps him active without breaking him down further. Headline probability, low. Smart option for his body, genuinely, yeah. Dark horse, but it's on the board when it comes to this option. But then there's also the fourth and last option, I believe. The one nobody wants to say out loud. He just stops. He retires. He's 48, right? And he's had his shoulder rebuilt, right? That's what I brought up before. He's had a successful fitness YouTube channel, Celtic Warrior Workouts, which is an amazing channel. I think I'm subscribing just be subscribed to this channel, but I'm subscribing another channel I have. But Celtic Warrior Workout, which by the way, my wife brought me into this, amazing channel. He has a loyal, genuine audience in this page. 1.21 million subscribers. He already posted his farewell in Irish on X. Remember what I said at the start? A man writing his goodbye in his first language, that is not a social media play. It's a man at peace. And that's what I think is actually going to happen, in all honesty. Walking away at 48 with your health on your own terms after 17 years on the main roster, a lot of wrestlers don't honestly get that option. And there's zero shame in taking it also. He is married after all. He can move on with his life. He can still do this channel, do these videos. Now he can be potentially open to work out with wrestlers outside of WWE. More options are out there for him now. Anyway, when it comes to this, as always, this is where I land. The pay cut story, honestly, it's not really about money. It's about respect when it comes to Sheamus. When your employer approaches you, while you're recovering from surgery while you are doing everything right, and their opening position is, we like to pay you less, that tells you something. It tells you how they see you, at least how TKO sees you. And Stephen Ferrelli, who won the world title in his debut year, who carried the company across a few multiple eras with other wrestlers, eras that none of us want to remember sometimes, but he did his best to carry us through it, who came back in his 40s and reminded an entire new generation of fans why he mattered and why he was important, decided that wasn't good enough. He was right, though, when it came to his decision, in my opinion. But where does he go? If he wants to still transition from low-level wrestling maybe to the retirement that I think he should honestly do, here what we can do. Honestly, he can do a short-term AEW deal, 2 or 3 maybe marquee programs. The MJF match alone potentially would do some serious business. It will attract a lot of eyes between them two. The internal concerns are real though, but they can be managed. If the contract has a clear end date and a clear creative plan, it will be fine. I mean, even having a stopover in New Japan, a limited, maybe focused program, a different context, a different audience, acknowledging what he actually is, a legitimate, decorated, world-class professional wrestler if he does it. Now, before the curtain comes down for good, that can be done. Give him a little more legit before he retires. Even though he's already, in my opinion, a Hall of Famer ballot, for WWE at least, maybe this is a way for him to get even outside of WWE. But here's the thing, Sheamus is not the last one to do this, probably. He joins Kofi Kingston and Austin Creed in this situation with the pay cuts, two of the most beloved WWE lifers of their generation, in the growing list of veterans who looked at TKO's New World Order and said no. The list is going to get longer, honestly, as the months pass by, and every time it does, the question of what WWE actually owes is its long-term talent gets a little louder. Nobody's asking it yet, though. They will. Stephen Ferrelli, 7'3". Last time I checked, 267 pounds. Now a free agent. For the first time in 20 years, the Celtic Warrior walked in with nothing and leaves with everything he earned. Whatever comes next, he got to choose it. So we will see. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And as always, if the tea hit right, hit the like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.